Welcome to Confidence Talks. You're on the sofa with Nish, Bina, and Debbie. Hi, ladies. How are
Hi.
you?
Good. I'm good.
Yeah, very good.
It's been a while since we had a sofa talk, hasn't it?
It has.
Yes,
It has. God, I can't remember when we last did it.
Well, the last one we did more of a virtual, didn't we? We did,
Yes. And before that, we did one. Gosh, that was ages ago. January?
yeah, but then even though we saw each other last weekend, it feels like ages.
I know.
for
It
us,
really does.
That's what I said when you came in. It's like, I know we only saw each other a week ago, but it seems like.
I don't feel like we've actually had time to sit and talk.
Well, that's what we do best, isn't it? And that's actually why it probably seems like we haven't had enough time to catch up, because actually what we do best is sit down and have great conversations, which we haven't had much time
We haven't
to
had
do.
that for ages.
We haven't, but do you know what? We've got something really interesting lined up today. So today we are continuing a conversation we had kind of set the seeds for before, which was all around confidence in the family dynamic. Now, we chose family dynamic because it's a dynamic where you don't choose the different personalities that you're around in your family.
That's right.
But it could also be a work setting, because you also don't choose the people that you work with, unless you're lucky enough to. So you could be dealing with different personalities. So although we're talking about families, this could be taken in a different context. So what we thought would be really interesting to do, which we set about doing, was a bit of a personality profile for the three of us. So we could use us as an example, as guinea pigs, to kind of put out there and talk about the different personalities that you can get, and how can you pull the best from each other, and actually what would your opposite type of personality be, and how can you get along with them. So before we start looking and delving into our profiles, which we have back, Bina, if you could tell us a little bit about the profile that we use, the profiling program, I guess, that we used.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm going to go backwards a little bit. So through my company, I do learning and development programs. And one of the things that we deliver is psychometric profiles, which is what we've got here. And there is a range of different types of profiles that you can get. This one is Insights Discovery. That's the one that we're using today. And it's based on initially understanding yourself, and then how you can then understand other people. So in our last podcast, we had Debbie come along, who works with me, and she kind of gave us some insight and some descriptions around what it's about, and I'll give you a couple of those as a recap in just a moment. But what we also did was get the actual profile done on ourselves. And the profile takes you through a few things. So you get a lovely document, which is about 20 odd pages long. And in there, you'll get some narrative, which is about your personal style, so who you are as an individual. There'll be some stuff in there about how you interact with other people and how you make decisions. Now, all of this is got a slight work context to it, but actually you can adapt it into the way that you are at home, or in your relationships, or in your work environment, like before. It goes through some other bits and bobs as well, like your strengths, your weaknesses, how to communicate with different types of people to help you through it. Now, the way that this profile works, as a bit of a reminder, is it is on the basis of 4 different colours. You have fiery red, sunshine yellow, earth green, and cool blue. Now, to figure out where you kind of fall, the first thing that you ask yourself is, are you more introverted or more extroverted as a character? And that will then give you a bit of an option of 2 of them. So say, for example, you would say you are extroverted. You would either fall into the sunshine yellow or red, fiery red category. Now, this is not an exact science. Obviously, you do the questionnaire to get a proper profile, but this is just roughly, right? Your then question would be, are you people-focused or are you more task-focused in the way that you approach things? If you say you were task-focused, you'd probably be more fiery red or cool blue. If you were people-focused, you'd either be sunshine yellow or earth green.
So quick question around that. Extrovert and introvert, I think, is fairly easy for people to understand. You know, you would know if you're more of an extrovert. By the way, I might just plug in, I've got a sneeze brewing, so I can feel it tickling my nose. you would know if you're more outgoing, if you're kind of like the life of the party, or if you actually prefer to take a low-key approach when you're out and you let everybody else take the limelight. Extrovert, introvert, a bit easier to understand. Could you give as an example of how you would know if you're more task-focused or people-focused?
So I guess it's the way you approach things. So do you think about how to complete a task first, what needs to be done and how you need to do it and the way that you'd go about it and getting results? Or do you think about the impact on something on people around you and how you bring people together, or how you could do this with other people? Mm-hmm. So it just depends which one you're drawn to in the way that you would work or when you're around different situations. The introvert extrovert one's actually quite an interesting one. I know you mentioned a couple of things there. That one is about, it's also worth thinking about how you like to, and I use the phrase, recharge your batteries. Do you prefer to do that in the company of other people? Or do you prefer to do that by yourself? Do you recharge your batteries by taking time out and being by yourself? And if you remember, one of the first conversations when we were sat on the sofa was, one of the things you guys said was, I tend to be a bit more quiet sometimes when I'm around you.
Yeah.
And that's because I draw my energy from within. I take energy from being by myself and not always from other people. And that's the introversion that comes out of me. Whereas you guys draw your energy from being around each other, and that hypes you up even more.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm the complete opposite.
That is an interesting one, because I've always seen myself as actually an extrovert because of all the other examples that I previously used. But you're right, when it comes to sometimes recharging batteries, I do need to become a bit of a hermit actually and do my own thing as well. So that would make sense as to why actually I'm not as much of an extrovert as I thought I was. I'm actually a bit borderline. So
Yeah. But I mean, this is a quick and easy version of understanding which one of the four you're likely to be. Okay. I think that will help in some of the conversations that we're probably going to have in a little while.
Exciting. Okay, all right. So I thought it'd be interesting if we held each other's profiles, so we don't have our own in front of us, because I thought we'd be more objective, when it's your own and you're reading from it, it can be a bit personal. But I've always said this, what these conversations are about, and we've always said it, they're about being honest. We're comfortable being vulnerable as well and putting ourselves out there, which is what we're doing. So we have each other's profiles. So I have, Nish, I have your profile.
Okay.
Here.
Debbie, I've got yours.
And Bina, I've got yours.
Cool.
Be kind. So you're right. So this, I mean, it's fascinating. This insights, and as you said, there's loads of other psychometric profiling programs that you have out there. I know I am an advocate for Insights. I know you are, because we've worked with it before. Nish, you're new to Insights, so
I am.
Having read your profile, what did you think of it?
It was on spot of me, that described me to a T, I thought. And I read it out with my husband, and he was like, yep. There might be an odd thing or an odd word or sentence that I did not agree with.
Yeah.
But I'd say 99% it was me, which I was like, wow, this is so true. I've done others, like you said, there's so many others out there. And they haven't always been that accurate. So I found this really useful.
And I think it's worth saying here that, if anyone ever gets one of these done, that, don't go into this thinking it has to be 100% accurate, because it doesn't.
No.
It's an overview.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it just gives
very
you...
much.
And there are some phrases and terms that will come through. Sometimes you'll read something and it's not the perception you have of yourself, but it might be a perception that others have of you. So we use the phrase blind spot here.
Yes.
Is it in your blind spot? Is it something that you don't recognise about yourself? And there are just some things that you kind of go, do you know what? I don't agree with it at all.
Yeah.
And
Now,
that's okay.
I need to point out, I read this, my profile, in the context of my team in the home. I think a lot of workplaces use this, a lot of businesses use this. But we've often done these within the home.
Yeah.
So for me, this was read as my team at home, i.e. my family. And that's how I read it and thought, yeah, okay, I get this. I could relate it to work as well.
Yeah.
But the majority of the time, I was bringing it into the home and
Yeah.
reading it.
And do you know, that's the context I want to come from, because that is a team.
Yeah.
It's your first team that you're going to work with, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
work is another thing, but your home team, your family team is the one that you're predominantly working with, the characters that you're going to be spending quite a lot of time with. So it just makes sense that you get that team kind of working really strongly first, and then you can look at it in a work perspective. But it is quite scary how just answering a few questions kind of gives you all of this insight. I found it really interesting, especially reading the weaknesses and the blind spots. What I found really, really helpful though is how to communicate. If this
That
is,
was really interesting.
wasn't it? So
Oh
if
my
this
goodness,
if this is
yes.
your personality, how best to communicate
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah.
And what would be your opposite type of personality, and how would you communicate with them?
Yep.
Yes.
Because that's where things can sometimes go wrong. If you don't understand, if somebody has the opposite type of personality to you, so let's say using the description that you gave, so let's say I'm an extrovert and I'm more task focused, which would make me, in this context, more fiery red.
Yep.
In Insights context. So I'm more task focused and I'm extroverted. So my opposite, I understand, would be the earth green,
Yep. Which is me.
is you, which is slightly more introverted and more to do with people. So we're the opposites. If we don't understand each other, you may think I'm being rude, abrupt, neglecting your feelings, and I might think you're slow to come to decisions and you're not focused on the task in hand and you're taking too
Yeah.
long about things. So it can lead to these kind of like clashes.
Yeah.
So the whole purpose of us having these conversations is to help people to recognize what type of personality they may be,
Yeah.
what types of personalities they have in their family, and how to get the best out of each other, how to
Yeah.
communicate with each other and avoid those clashes.
And your direct opposite is the one that you will naturally clash with because it is your opposite. Interestingly, they also say opposites attract.
I was
gonna
So,
say.
you know, there are relationships out there where you've got your complete opposites, and that dynamic works amazingly because
Yeah.
you understand each other well enough to
Yeah.
be able to work
And
together.
isn't that interesting? I remember Debbie said that most of the time when she comes across partnerships, so people in relationships, they are the opposites. So somehow we attract what we lack. We naturally do that. We will be drawn
Yes.
towards somebody who has something that we don't.
Yeah.
So isn't it interesting how we do that, but we choose it in a relationship? Whereas because you don't choose it in a family dynamic or a team dynamic,
Yeah.
you might see it as a negative.
So you're not given that choice, are you? You're never given that choice.
Yes.
You
And
didn't
that's
choose
why
it.
that's
Yeah.
why it's, I think, more like you say, more often than not, the negative side of it.
Yeah.
But if you use this in a family setting, it'd be
Yeah.
amazing
It would
how
be.
it could change dynamics within a family.
Yeah, I actually think because you answer the questions and you get your profile, I think it's easier to digest and understand, you know, traits about yourself than somebody else telling you, saying you're like this, you're like that, which can
Yeah.
be quite confrontational.
Yeah.
You answer the questions. This
Yeah.
is a result of what
Yeah.
you've basically said and what you've chosen. So I think it's a great way to hold up the mirror and actually do a bit of a deep dive into your own personality, into
Yeah.
what you're about. So it's a good way of doing it. But I know people are kind of going, right, so what are you
Get on
guys?
with it.
So do you know, we wanted to do this also because our dynamic works, but
Yeah.
we also recognise we're so different. So we thought it would be interesting to see where we sit. So I'm going to start by actually, as Bina, you kindly described kind of the different colours. So let's start by actually looking at where we sit. I'm going to start because I'll tell you what, Nish, I was really surprised. I was quite surprised as to what you came out and what I thought you would be.
Oh, really?
So, your highest kind of personality, and we should probably point out that everybody has a little bit of all the colours in
Yep.
them. This is just what is your natural tendency. So, your highest colour, your natural tendency is yellow, sunshine yellow, which didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
But I did think red would be up there for you.
Yeah.
Genuinely,
I
think
agree.
you thought the same.
Yeah.
And it
I'm
wasn't.
surprised.
And it
We
wasn't.
were so surprised that red was actually your least in some respects. And the only reason why I thought that is because you come across to me as quite focused, you know, like when you need to get something done, you're quite task focused. You're definitely high energy. So being an extrovert, I definitely saw you as an extrovert.
Yeah.
But between people and task, I would have probably had you more as task focused than people focused. But it goes to show, you know.
Yeah.
I was between the two, so I was kind of thinking you would either be yellow, red, or red, yellow. I wasn't sure which way it would go, but I knew it would be one of those two, and the other one would follow fairly
Yeah.
quickly. That's what I'd originally thought.
Yeah, I'd have thought yellow and then red, but no, your preferences are yellow first and then green. So yellow being the extrovert, right? So the extrovert, sunshine yellow, lots of optimism, lots of energy. You know, the cheerleader, and then followed so closely by green, which is actually more introvert and very people focused.
Yes.
So with yellow and green, I mean, Bina, tell me kind of what this says for Nish's kind of personality profile. So yellow prevalent and then green. And then blue and red.
For me, what I take from that is a huge focus on people. So it's always thinking about how to bring people together, how to do things together. Where's that harmony coming from? And you see that play out. And I think that goes to actually what you said a little while ago, which is I'm thinking about this from my team, my home perspective. And that's literally
the
summed
language,
up
my team.
your profile. Your team
Yeah.
is your family. And the way that you're describing it is yellow and then green. And when you kind of hear it, you're like, duh, yeah, of
You
course,
get it,
right?
So it's in the language. So you hear the traits in the language. You're right.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, a lot of the language you use is us, my family, my team.
Yeah.
You're very much at the center focus of it. So yeah, it is more people. If you were more red and task focused, it would be the family, their team. It would be more objective, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you're pulling the family together. So in the sense of creating the harmony between the boys, you, your husband. It's right. What are you doing? How are you doing this? Stop doing that. Do this. It
What are we
really
doing for
plays
dinner
out.
together? What are we doing as a
Yes.
family? And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And
you
the
basically.
traditions.
Sorry, I was going to say you are the social calendar, aren't you?
Oh my God,
Yes, I am.
And it's also the traditions that you bring. And so one of the traditions that I love that you have is when you pop a bottle, you take the cork and you put the dates and etc. and you put it in a big bowl. And I absolutely love that. But that's an example of bringing people together.
Yeah.
Those are your memories, and that is the green energy
Yes.
coming through.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight some of, as we're talking about your colours, some of those, the personality, kind of like the personal style it's called. So I'll pull on personal style and a little bit about how you interact with others, because that will help people understand if this sounds like them, you know? Like,
Yes.
if they're more yellow in energy, this is kind of the things that they would see in their traits. Or maybe they can recognise others in their family having this colour prevalent. So you display fierce loyalty to and for the people who report to you in this case, because it says it's in a work
Yes.
dynamic. But basically, I see that all the time from you.
Yeah.
So you're fiercely loyal to those you care about, to your family, to your friends. And I know we've had so many conversations where I can vouch for this 100%.
Yeah, same here.
And this one really caught me. She tries to live each moment as a satisfying personal experience.
Yes.
Amazing. That should be on a t-shirt.
Oh my God. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that is her through and through. It's just
true.
unreal.
It's not that you don't, you're very planned and organised, but you choose to really enjoy each and every moment before
Yeah.
rushing on to the next. You know, and I know I've taken from that and learned from it as well, you know, rather than kind of constantly looking and planning ahead, it's also about, but let's enjoy here and now.
Enjoy the
as well.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that I was
Being
like,
present.
yeah, definitely, yeah, presence, definitely. What else stood out to me? Let me see. Team-centered, thorough and articulate. Oh God, yes.
Yes.
And that shines through in kind of what you do for work. So what do you do for work, Nish?
I work in a school and I'm an exams invigilator. So yeah, that's
So
having to be
thorough
very
and
thorough.
articulate,
Yes.
absolutely. This struck me as interesting. So she tends to be disinterested in subjects for which she sees no practical application. Talk to me about this. You're not a theorist.
No. That's where I thought I'm more task orientated, although I know that's not showing in my colours. But just get the job done. It needs to be done. I am very practical.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. And I never was that. I'm not saying I wasn't book smart, but education never interested me, or I didn't strive, or it was more on the job, learning on the job, doing
Yeah.
things practical with my hands, or if somebody says to me, Nish, this needs to get done, it will get done.
Yeah.
Ask me to sit there and study something for hours. That's not me.
So it's kind of like okay, so how does it look, feel? What are we actually doing?
Yes.
And I have a perfect example of this when we're trying to do briefs. When we're trying to do briefs before we do a recording. And I'm like, okay, so let's talk about... And Nish rolls her eyes going, can we just get started? I'm like, let's talk about what we're going to discuss in this. Let's mind map it a little bit.
Forget the mind map. Put it out the window. I know it. I know it does help. I know. I know that you do need those
It's
things.
just like, can we just get started?
but I
Come
just
on.
want to get stuck in.
Do you know what? This is a real true example of how even though you're both the same colour and you lead with the same colour, you
We're
approach
quite
things completely differently.
Yeah.
We had an example this morning. I said to my husband, do you know what? God, the wall outside the kitchen, I could put my herb pots there. Like if you just put some nails in, I could put some pots up there. So he sits down and goes, so where does the sun come from? Do you get sunshine there? And I'm like, oh, it's not the sun. I just want my pots out there. He went, I'm just trying to give you an input, being the green finger of the family. And he goes, oh, does that not interest you? I went, no, I just want my herbs out.
You did just say that. I'm gonna just scoot past that really quickly. So he wanted a feasibility report, basically.
And where the sun comes from. Does the sun shine there? Because you know that they need sunshine.
And Nish has already pulled the toolbox out of the shed with a hammer and nail going, what was that, darling?
yeah.
So, yeah, this, absolutely, this is true.
You can tell he's task focused for sure.
Yes. Oh gosh, very much. Yes.
Okay, so open-minded, tolerant, amusing, and good company.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm not always tolerant, but yeah.
Nish lives in and for the moment, absolutely. She flourishes in jobs where she can be of constant service or use her talent to persuade. So you are people focused. You want to help people. You need to you know, you've got plenty to give, and you want to be able to do that. And that again is not just it's not just through your work that you do that. I can see that it's through how you are with your friends and your family. You are constantly the one to give support, to give that push, to to drive people, to motivate people, and I can see now that it's just part and parcel of you wanting to give. But talk to me about your persuasive talents, Nish.
Didn't think I had those. But clearly I have.
Are you kidding?
I know. What makes you think that?
I think the persuasive talents come from if it's something I truly believe in, or I believe that it's something is not right.
Okay.
People may use other words for that, but I think that's when when you truly believe, no, this is not right. I mean, we've had a conversation before we started this,
Yeah.
and I guess that's me saying to you guys about the subject we were talking about, which we won't talk on, that we need to think of different things. We need to think of different ways, and whatever. And I think that's because that's what I truly believe.
Yeah.
Of where this is going, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's in that context that my persuasion is used, being persuasive.
So when
That's how I see it. Others may see it differently.
I do. One thing I've always noted about you is that you're very good at putting your thoughts across. When, like you said, when you're quite passionate about something, when you really believe in something, you're a very strong driving force behind it, which I think is a great quality, because there are people that would be out there that would have such good ideas and a lot to give and offer, but they sometimes get shut down by stronger personalities, or they get shut down by people who could criticize them. Whereas what I've noticed about you is you stick to your guns, not in a stubborn way.
But could that
in
not be seen as being, by somebody else, they could be being shut down by me?
Could be.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, because you're
they're
an
not as
extrovert.
confident.
Yeah, could be. So I see it in a positive context, but you're absolutely right. If somebody else were more of an introvert,
Yeah.
and you were coming across with strong kind of opinions that were not the same as theirs, then yeah, they could.
And
see
I
that
have to be
as-
aware of that.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
something I very much have to be aware of.
Actually,
But you also have to take absolute pride in the fact that you have good, strong values and belief systems that are driving your behaviour. That is
Yeah.
what's creating what we're seeing. And if people really took time to understand you, they would see where that's coming from.
where it's coming from, that's the key thing.
And it's
exactly.
that taking time to understand somebody.
There you go.
Which I find a lot of people don't have time.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
just see what's on the surface, and that's
And
all they're
that's it. It's
interested
like judging that book by its cover.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hang on, give it time, read that book.
Where's it coming from? What's
Yeah.
the values and the belief system of this person? But
Yeah.
you touched on something really important there, which is you've already taken something away from this, saying I need to be a bit more aware of people who
Yeah.
Are not as strong as me.
Yeah, because although my views and you should absolutely still keep doing what you're doing, but perhaps encourage that from others as well, basically.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose of this.
It's being open-minded, right? It's being open-minded enough to say, I have my opinion, my views, my beliefs, etc. But so does someone else. And how do those things interact with each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I've been in situations where actually people have been, it's not been right for everybody, the situation's not been right, but nobody wants to speak up. And I've found that when I do speak up, people see that as a very, well, see it as threatening, see it as a very strong character. Oh, why is she being like that? But hang on, there's 5 of you there that have the exactly same thought as me, but you're not willing to speak up and you're willing to tolerate that situation, whereas I'm not.
That's possibly why they see it the way you just explained,
Yeah.
because they are actually more introverted. So for them to see you speaking up, it might come across that way. But had another personality similar to yours or more of an extrovert heard you say that, they wouldn't think that. They
Yeah.
just think,
Good. But they all want the same outcome as I want, but they're not willing to speak up for it. Whereas
Yeah.
I will put my neck out there
yeah,
And
if that's what I truly believe, or, you know, and that comes back to being persuasive, I guess.
It's also worth remembering that people are on a scale, right? So when we're talking about
Definitely.
extroversion, introversion, right? You've got complete introversion one end, you've got complete extroversion the other end. Everyone is somewhere on that sliding
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah.
So if you're on complete extroversion and you're seeing someone that's on the complete opposite end, for you that's really difficult to understand and to take in. Whereas if they were slightly more to the centre, they're a bit closer to your style,
Yeah,
and therefore much easier to
But
respond
if you
to.
are aware, I have a friend, complete opposite of me, but because I'm aware of my personality and how I am with her, when we first met, I mean, I've seen her grow over the last 5-6 years
Okay.
into a much stronger character. But I've always given her that support, and she'll always come to me and say, I need to do this. Do you think this is right? Or, you know, it's actually a work colleague. I'm going to send this email, and she'll send herself, and she's grown stronger and stronger over the years. With that one friend, I guess I've been very aware that she's nothing like me. But like you say, that spectrum,
Yeah.
I think it's a lot about being aware of yourself.
Yeah.
And being, some people aren't, are they? And we talk about EI and all of that. People go, oh, they've got no EI, or they've got, you know, none of this. But if you are aware of it, and I have absolutely seen, I mean, this is a grown woman I'm talking about, seeing her from where she was to where she is now. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. And I even tell her, I'm one of those women that will tell somebody, like I have another friend that, you know, she's been through a very difficult time in her life, but the things she's achieved, so when she's got a down day, it's like, no, just remember what you've achieved, all
Yeah.
the things that you've done. And that's one thing I find women don't always do to each other.
Forget women. I think people in general sometimes don't do
Yeah.
with each other.
Yeah.
But you hit the key point there, which is this is about awareness. It's being aware of the other person and the impact that your style of communication or your style of doing things can have on the other person. And that will play out in your relationship dynamics.
And first and foremost, being aware of yourself, and that's why we started this kind of season talking about self. You know,
Yes.
because it starts with yourself, being self-aware of how you are and the impact then you can have on others. I do think you're onto something with the whole women helping women. You know, we celebrated International
Women's
Day going
Yeah.
back a couple of weeks, and it did get me thinking. I'll not go totally off tangent at the moment, but I do think there's something there to discuss
Yeah.
in a future episode, because I do think women could support women a lot better. I think it's a cultural thing that's kind of like maybe happened, and but I think there's something there. So mental bookmark.
Yeah, definitely.
But absolutely, and I can see from your profile, you know, I didn't need a profile to tell me this, but it makes me understand it so much better that one of your strengths is also the ability to let others work at their own pace, coupled with an awareness of the unique contribution each person makes. So you're aware of making people feel valued, you know, in the contributions they make. Equally, if her efforts are not recognised or approval is withheld, she may feel deflated. And I totally get that, because you put so much heart and soul into caring for everybody and pulling them together and helping, that naturally not having that appreciated.
And it comes from the heart, but again, it's how it's perceived.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to think everything I do does come from the heart, and I do it because I want to do it.
Yeah.
If I don't want to do it, I won't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd agree with that statement. The weakness, it's a weakness, isn't it? It came under weakness, or
No,
What did it
it's
come-
just personal style.
Oh,
and
personal
I
style.
wouldn't put
Oh,
that as
okay.
a weakness, because if you're people oriented and you kind of do things because you care, that means you have feelings. So if you have
Yes.
feelings, they're bound to be hurt if people don't show their appreciation for what you've done for them. You know,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't see that as a weakness. I see that as it's part and parcel of being people focused.
That's your green energy coming through.
Right.
So there's almost a part here which is, you know, it's not reciprocated, and that's can sometimes be difficult to understand, that you put that much effort and energy, and I'm talking from being a green energy person myself, where, you know, you put lots of time and energy and effort into people and it doesn't get appreciated or reciprocated in any way. Not that you do it for reciprocation, but you want people to put time and effort into you, and you don't feel it's or it's appreciated in any way.
yeah,
And that can sting.
This stood out for me because this again is the difference between, we know you're an extrovert, but this is the difference that I'm about to say between you, which are sunshine yellow, and somebody who would be more red. She wins the cooperation of others by using approval and praise rather than argument or intimidation.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yep.
If somebody were more fiery red, they would use
the
more
latter.
argument
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
intimidation, or, you know, to win somebody over or to have their way. Whereas you do it through working with people. That's the key difference, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So there you go. So if anybody were in doubt, going, I'm extrovert, but am I more yellow? Am I more red? There you go. Do you win your way by kind of arguing your way and being bold and kind of saying, no, this is how we're doing it? Bit like a bull in a china shop sometimes. Or actually, do you do it through working with people and persuading them? In which case, you're probably more yellow and an extrovert.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to see if there's anything else, and then we'll move over to you. So I won't go through kind of communicating. We'll come back onto that.
yeah.
Just see if anything else. Decision making. I'm going to come on to decision making because this might be another way that people might be able to recognize whether this is them or this is somebody else in their family dynamics. So people occasionally see Anishma making decisions that appear to fly in the face of logic. She always feels that a solution will evolve once she has all the facts in place.
The sun will shine on my herbs. Absolutely, they will.
knock down a wall to get the sun there, I will. But it will work out. It's fine. She sees herself as realistic, practical, and matter of fact.
Absolutely.
Although others may not always see the practicality of some of her decisions.
Your herbs all over again.
Brilliant. Oh, I can't do. You're going to make Venus makeup run.
I'll start crying in a minute.
Okay. She is prepared to make decisions through group consensus, another quite yellow strong trait.
Yeah.
You're about getting group consensus. Actually, a bit of green.
Yeah, probably more so green
Yeah.
because it's about harmony, etc.
One of her challenges is that she may not obtain enough direction or discipline at work or be sufficiently involved in planning for the future.
Not sure I completely agree with that. What do you think?
I wouldn't agree with that. I don't know if you do, Nish, but one of her challenges is that she may not obtain enough direction or discipline at work. Oh, so she may not obtain as in she doesn't get it enough or be sufficiently involved in planning for the future. If this is saying that you do that, I don't agree with it because I actually think you're quite disciplined with direction and kind
Yeah.
of and planning. But
I
we
think
said
you
it could be
know
the odd.
Yes.
What you're
Yeah.
looking at for the
Yeah.
future. Yeah. I'm not sure I completely agree with
That's
that.
why I'm saying 99.9%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's those questions. When you answer those questions, I don't know if you noticed, you'll get the same question again, but in a different way.
And what it's testing is how, what's the word I'm looking
In
for?
different situations where you've got different options, do you still go for that option?
Yeah.
Yeah,
or do
it's
you
how
go for
strong
something
that
else?
trait is
Yeah.
within
exactly.
you. That's what it's
Yeah.
looking for.
So here's the point that probably helps explain that previous one a little bit more. So she's likely to decide in favour of the solution that brings the highest level of approval from others. So although you're strong about what you believe in, it's more about
You want everybody on board.
what's harmony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's
There's no point going it alone when you've got to work as a team. Unless it's, I guess, a matter of life and death or something like that, where you
Yeah,
think
that'll be
actually
kinda different.
decision
there's a
needs
right
to be
and
made.
there's a wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and in my job at work, I do have to do that. But I think it's in the home, I think there is time that you can make the consents together. Although sometimes my family think it's a it's a dictatorship. We won't get into that. That word has been used.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think we just changed the communication to make it feel like, they're involved in the decision.
I tell them, no, I'm asking your opinion.
Nishma is good at easing tense situations, enabling competing or conflicting groups to unite. I'm going to end on that.
See, not dictatorship at all.
So that was just an overview
of a yellow and a green.
of what was a strong yellow followed by a green. So
Yeah.
extrovert and a little bit of introvert, but very, very people focused rather than task focused. And that was a little bit of a personality overview and just decision making. And we'll later come on to how you would communicate with this style of person,
Yeah.
and also who would be the opposite and how you'd communicate with them.
But sorry, one thing I want to say, because you guys have done this before.
Yes.
And I remember you both saying that I think it's changed. So I think as you grow as a person and age, I would have thought 10 years back, maybe 15 years back, I would have been very much a red.
So we weren't wrong.
Yeah.
No,
It was there, right? It was
you're
absolutely
not.
there.
You're not. You're absolutely not. But I think as you go through life and the experiences you
Absolutely.
have, you change.
You change as per exactly what you said, the experiences. Sometimes when people change jobs, roles, something different happens in their life. Yes, it absolutely, because we change and evolve, don't we? That's
exactly.
the idea. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, here, when you get to mine, we can actually talk about that because mine has changed from when I last did it, and it was fairly consistent for a number of years up until recently.
It'll be really interesting to talk about the things that have brought that change.
Oh God,
Um,
how long have we got?
Because that is what we're talking about. We're talking about, we've talked about before, personality styling. So if you want to change the way you are, how do you do that as well?
Absolutely.
But I shall remove the spotlight from you, Nish.
Take a breather.
Right, the spotlight is on. Bina,
Oh,
who have you
okay.
got? You've got Debbie, haven't you?
I have. So, Debbie,
You don't have to look at me while you talk about this.
oh, yeah, this is yeah, okay. So, you have come out as yellow energy, first and foremost, so sunshine yellow.
I love how you're doing the bounce
I
thing
know,
with
I
it.
don't even know. And then you've got blue energy very closely thereafter. So, starting with yellow and then going blue, which is the complete opposite spectrum. Followed by green and then red. So, how does that sit with you?
I am a little bit off the scale both ends. So, the yellow doesn't surprise me at all. We've discussed this kind of like before. I really, really thought the blue would be less than it is. But it kind of makes sense to me, really, because I'm all about balance all the time. Everything I do, everything I say, the way I think, it's always about yin and yang. It's always about the balance. So the fact that I have two opposite energies, it, sums me up.
Well, so when I read through your profile, I literally sat there going, yeah, totally through it. And it was the first line, I was like, oh God, right, this is how it's going to go. Debbie tends to be alert and often uncannily correct.
I'm going to stick that on my fridge.
And scarily, it is so freaking true.
See, the thing is, I've had these conversations with my other half before, right? And he's like, you don't always have to be right. And I'm like, I know, but I am. He doesn't get it. It's like, no, I don't want to be right, but I am. And the words...
He doesn't get that.
He doesn't get it. It's not... And the words I use are interesting. I say, no, I'm not right. It is right. It's just I favoured in the correct situation. It's not about me being right. It is right. You know, and it's not that I want to be, but I end up being right. It's actually a curse. It's quite tiring, actually, really.
Well, for me, it's really interesting because what I literally hear there is you going into your blue energy as you disassociate yourself from the situation. And it's like the task, the thing here, that's the right thing.
Exactly. It's not about me being right. And it is. It'll be the smallest of things. Like, it could be the tiniest thing, like, please don't put that bottle there because it's going to fall. No, it's not. What happens? The bottle falls. And I'm not allowed to say I told you so. Right? That's just a tiny little example. So I think I don't catastrophize, so I don't always see negatives, but I do play out a lot of things. So little situations, I will just sit there and play it out and say, a bit like the sliding doors movie. If I do this, then this, then this, then this, then this could happen, and this is a result. Or if I did this, then they would say this, then this would happen, this would happen, this would happen. So I tend to very quickly play out a lot of things, and that's probably why, uncannily, I might be right about the end result.
Yeah. And actually, it does say here, it is as if she has an antenna that enables her to detect dangers long before other people do.
Oh my God, is that not exactly the same as your first sentence?
Yep, it is.
Is
That
it?
is so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. We'll come back to that. I love this line about you, and it is you in a nutshell. She enjoys the gift of practical intuition, which, might I just add, is the complete opposite of what natural blue energy is about. Blue energy is
Logic.
facts, figures, logic, right? This intuition, complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is where your yellow energy is coming
So you
through.
combine intuition with logic
It's like a party.
for one.
So I love that because that is you. You do have an initial gut reaction and a vibe or a feeling about something, and then you go and back it up.
With logic.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm right.
You know, your
I'm gonna
husband's going to
laminate
listen to
this.
this and go,
I'm going to laminate
I'm not
everything.
letting these three women get back together again. Debbie is sympathetic, empathetic, and affable. What do you make of that? Because I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Really strongly. And it's followed up with Debbie is warm, open, realistic, and radiates optimism.
I do like a good bit of
Radiation. Actually, right.
You haven't hit that age yet. Wait till you do.
Oh dear, countdown. Here we go. Here we go.
You're a long way from that, my dear.
Radiate sounds better than oozing. I'd rather
Yes.
radiate optimism than ooze.
Absolutely.
Oh God, now we're getting into semantics, aren't we? This will be interesting to get your view on. She needs to be appreciated for herself and her service, and she can be highly sensitive to indifference or criticism of the support she offers or provides.
When I read this, and this is why I do like this, because it is holding up that mirror and saying, actually, think about this. And actually, I agree with it.
Okay.
I didn't know this about myself. When I'd be in situations where I get hurt, that makes sense now when I look at it retrospectively. Similar to yourself,
Yeah.
I'm all about helping others and I put them before myself. But when that's not appreciated, and I don't need much.
Yeah.
I don't even
Yeah,
need it
yeah.
to be reciprocated. I
Yeah.
just need that appreciation to be appreciated. Does that make sense?
It does.
And when it's not, that really hurts.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
that is absolutely true. But I think, again, just going back, isn't that, if you're a people person, isn't that part and parcel of it? You're happy to give, but all you want is just for that to be appreciated, your efforts to be
Yeah. And I think
valued.
we've talked about that in a family context, haven't we?
Yeah.
With siblings and things like that.
Yeah, we have.
And where that plays out for you.
And it's worth remembering, sort of the yellow energy part of it, it's all, a lot of it is linked around the social element.
Yeah.
You know, social, I don't know, whatever language you want to use, social recognition, interaction, all of those sorts of things. And actually that impact of the opposite, which is social rejection or social, I guess, just people stepping back and kind of not appreciating those things. Those are the things that hit deeper because it's
Yeah.
the opposite of what you're about. And it's harder to understand why people will behave in that way.
Yeah. So that actually did help me understand a lot of why I've been hurt in various relationships in the family dynamic. And actually, although I can't stop other people being the way they are, I can be aware of it myself.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Kind of, do you know what I mean? Not
Yes.
guard, that's not the right word, but be more aware of it and
Yeah.
say, well, I know I can be sensitive to this. So actually, if I'm a bit more aware of that, then maybe it won't hurt as much.
And going into
Yeah.
situations,
Yeah.
knowing that.
Knowing a different personality type, knowing that I may not get that appreciation from that,
Yeah.
and being okay with it.
Exactly. Coming out of it okay.
Yeah.
So
Because
that actually-
sometimes you can go into these things and come out not very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the reaction you've had and the feelings and stuff. But going into it, I mean, I've done that in many situations now
Yeah.
where I've gone in going, it's fine. Whatever happens, when I walk in there or when I go into that situation, it's okay.
It's okay. I have no expectations.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's those expectations. And I guess it is expectations deep down for us, isn't it?
Yeah. Because we put so much into it.
Yeah.
But what this has helped me with, that's what I'm taking away from it, which is I know I can be sensitive with these things. So I need to get my own feelings in check.
Exactly.
Think about the person I'm dealing with. And if I know that that's not in their personality type, then I kind of take that expectation away. So I don't get hurt.
And do you know, I think it's really worth saying here for someone, and from the time I've spent with you, you are one of the most self-aware people that I know. And the fact that you're still sat here saying, I've taken this away from this, is huge because it's just showing that it doesn't matter how self-aware you actually are.
There's always
There
room
you
for
go.
improvement. There's always, if you highlight one blind spot, you create another one. You know, like we are human beings, where the beauty is in our complexity. So as we choose something we're working on, that's going to have a dynamic impact somewhere else and maybe create a different blind spot. So
Yeah.
that is the journey, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
continually changing and learning about yourself.
Do you know, I've just read this line and this is literally just what happened here. She tends to have an interest in the new and unusual and is gifted at expressing her feelings. And literally that last line that you said was like so expressive. It was beautiful. This one makes me giggle, and that's just because I've seen you do this. She exhibits personal warmth, insight, originality, but here it is, and a broad organisational ability.
Oh,
I
yes.
do like a bit of organising.
A bit.
I'm thinking of taking an OCD test. It would maybe explain my life a lot more.
Okay, I think it's worth just letting people know that Debbie arrived today with flip chart paper and pens,
Smelly
ready. Smelly flip chart pens, they're actually quite
Yeah,
handy.
fragrance pens.
To do some brainstorming.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what I was going to tell you as well? And yeah, that's totally me. I'm really excited to announce that I've started like post-it note to-do lists on a cupboard. So it started as an experiment because, sorry, Vips, because there were some things that he needed to do that he's getting behind on. So actually it started with Sandy's routine for the grandparents, right? To remind them, saying this is the routine because I was away with work. And then that transpired into a to-do list, which I very quickly monitored, got done. So I was like, So then I
So
kept,
do they get removed every time they're done?
so it ticked,
Oh,
and then I just replaced it with another post-it note, very nonchalantly, and then those jobs got done. So now, this is a weekly thing I'm doing. I just keep replacing the post-it note with new
So
tasks.
for those of you listening, this is blue energy through and through.
Things are getting done.
That's good. That's what you want.
Task focused, maybe?
I don't know if he's realised they're different post-it notes, because I make sure one task is the same on
He
each.
might listen to this.
By the time he does, I would have hoped he'd have gotten onto it. Otherwise, I've got bigger problems.
Oh dear God.
But yeah, so if you are if you're thinking, am I more blue or am I more yellow? It depends. Would you ditch spending time with your friends to make a to-do list and tick it off? In which case, you're more blue.
Yes.
If you choose to take your to-do list with your friends and get them to do one, you're more yellow.
Oh my God. Yeah, she's so yellow. You've got the same line as Nish. She tries to live each moment as a satisfying personal experience.
Which is why we have so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see that in both of you consistently, which is brilliant. Here's one that I want to ask you about. She wants to be indispensable to others, and her desire to please is so strong that she can sometimes lose her own identity by ignoring her own needs.
Definitely see where that comes from, and that still remains, but used to be a lot stronger.
Okay.
So, yes, I've always put other people's needs before my own.
Yeah.
I think it started, as we've talked about kind of childhood and stuff in previous episodes, it started from a very young age, just taking on that role of
Yeah.
kind of creating harmony and pulling everybody together and everything. So that's where it started from. I was also very lonely as a child, didn't really have friends, so you tend to adapt and change. And, you know, it's really silly, but we had a shop, so I used to take sweets for the kids because they used to
Cool.
bribe me and say, you know, if you bring us sweets, we'll play with you. So that's probably where it started from.
Okay.
So to be liked,
Yeah.
you know, I needed to be indispensable. I needed to be wanted. I needed to have something other people wanted. So they would be my friends. That's probably where that started from. And then, as we've talked about before, what we are today is a result of our past experiences in childhood. However, becoming more aware of it, becoming stronger in myself, becoming more confident in my own identity and who I am, becoming a mother, all of these things have changed me in such a way that that is less the case now. I will still put others before myself to a degree,
Yep.
as long as it doesn't pull on my values and my beliefs. So I'll still put others before myself, but I will not lose my identity in it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about that.
And that actually comes through a bit later. So it talks about how your values are important to you above all else. And although others don't always share your beliefs or commitments to them, they still hold fast for you. And I've seen that play out so much with you, even though you will have your own sets of values, etc. And people may do things around you. You don't judge anyone for it. You don't do anything about it. It's just that I will continue to have my values and beliefs and live my life in this way.
You have yours. But in the essence of being honest, as we always are, you know, on our sofa talks, I used to. be more judgmental. I didn't realize it until I look back on myself. I used to actually judge people in different situations, like if they didn't have the same set of values or beliefs I did. It was, and I guess maybe it's the way you're brought up in right and wrong. You know,
Yeah.
you're brought up
Yeah.
black and white, and I am more. I do have that blue logical, which is black and white, no space for grey, which I've really struggled with, and you know this, I've struggled with
Yeah.
throughout my life, but now I'm okay with it. So because of that black and white thought process, because of that wrong and right thought process, I have been a lot more judgmental in the past, but I'm not anymore because I've grown, I've understood. Life is not black and white. You do have grey, and there isn't always wrong and right. There is better and poorer choices, but not necessarily wrong or right. So you're right. I no longer judge, having been in various situations myself.
And do you know what? It's funny you talked about that black and white and grey. I genuinely remember the first time we had that conversation, and this was in a team meeting where we were doing some work. And David was like, well, it's either this or it's this. And it's like, well, no,
I
there's a bit in the
literally
middle.
said black or white,
Yeah.
didn't I?
And I was like, no,
I
there's
said there
grey
isn't
here.
anything in the middle. I think what I said is grey isn't a colour. It's where black and white get muddy. It's where they get muddy and mixed up.
Literally, we had a full-on debate in the middle of the room.
I really have come a long way.
Yeah. And that was...
Is there a bit of grey there now?
There's
yeah.
loads
Yeah.
of grey. I live in the grey now, as it were, 50 Shades of Grey, and then some.
That changed the tone really quickly.
There is grey. I am comfortable. In fact, not just comfortable, I thrive in the grey, actually, now.
Yeah. And this was only, what, 3-4-ish years ago?
It
So
just goes
actually,
to show that it's not time, it's your experiences and
Experiences,
how
yeah,
and
open-minded you
situations.
are.
Absolutely.
As to how
Yeah.
quickly you can change and evolve. So, yeah.
now this comes across for someone who leads with yellow energy, so quite extroverted. This could be confusing to people, so I just want to talk it through. She may be slow to express the intensity of her feelings and may appear shy and inward focused when others would prefer her to be pressing on.
Yeah, I can explain that. So again, if people are out there thinking, okay, because mine's quite different because the complete opposite colours, yellow and blue, that are fairly level
Yeah.
pegging. So it depends on the situation. So where, this would be a prime example of what you just read, where Nish is probably going, come on, Debbie, come on, spit it out. Spit it out. Let's move on. I know that's what you were saying in your head. This is an example of it. So I'm considered, depending on what the topic is and what we're talking about, I'm considered, I will not just blurt out something. If I will think about how to articulate it and get it across properly.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot in you.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just need a moment. If I'm genuinely thinking right now, I'm genuinely thinking of a response. I don't have one ready. So I'm taking a moment to consider what you've asked me, think about it, put it together so I can articulate it properly. That's where that comes from.
And that's pure blue energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the yellow is there. The yellow is there for the fun stuff. But when we're talking about deep stuff, when we're talking about something that I think requires thought and requires consideration, I will take a little bit more time to put it together.
And I think this is a really good opportunity to actually showcase the difference between the both of you. So Nish, yellow, green, you, yellow, blue. And whilst both leading with yellow, approach things completely differently in the way that you would articulate or communicate or whatever it might be. Just this conversation alone in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Because like you said at the beginning, we're made up of all 4 different colours, just differing amounts, right?
Some are more dominant than others.
Absolutely. So, you know, Nish's plays out slightly differently to yours. And as we get to mine, you'll see how mine's completely different.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love this one about you. And this is only because I've known you from a work environment. She prefers to be seen as rather sociable and may relish the occasional spotlight.
I don't
Yes.
know who you're talking about. Is that my profile?
It's right here in black and white. There's no grey here.
I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah. Do you know what? I always blame that on the Leo trait. Like I'm a Leo. Any other Leos out there? Like we're all about the limelight and being the life of the party, but it's not. where mine comes from, it doesn't come from a place of, oh, I'm so important, look at me. How actually sometimes people might see it that way.
You're not an
like,
attention seeker.
no, it's not
You're
for my
not an
attention.
attention seeker.
It's to pull people in.
Yeah,
You know,
and I
to
see
get
that.
the
I see
party
that in our
started.
family situations
Yeah.
Yeah.
as family.
Yeah.
I've seen you do that.
So I will be that person. The only way I can describe it is almost like like the MC. So
Yeah.
once I've got the crowd going, I'm happy to go off.
Yeah.
You know, it's not I have to be centre stage. I do it to pull everybody in to get a certain kind of like vibe going.
Yeah.
So that's the intention behind it.
The life and soul of the party.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that kind of makes sense why I did professional dancing, you know, like it was to be there for a moment to create an atmosphere and then I'm gone. You know, so
But in the flip side, in your work environment, that's why you're so comfortable getting up on stage and doing the things that you do, because it's
you
about
might need to
bringing
specify
people.
when you say I get up on stage and do the things that I do. Please be nice.
Debbie works
You
in
know
training.
her much. You know her a lot in her work environment,
Yeah,
whereas
so I've seen
I've not
both.
seen her in her work environment.
Yeah,
I've
so like
seen
I will
both.
be the first to be up there
Volunteer.
presenting at seminars in front of hundreds of people and things like that. It's not that I don't get nervous, but I thrive on those nerves. I
Yeah.
love it. Like I get, yeah.
But it's interesting. This is
It'd
where
be interesting for me to see that.
I'm,
I've
do you know
never
what? I'm
seen
pretty
you.
convinced you will see it fairly soon, because it plays out really interestingly in her dynamic. So
She scares me when she talks like this because I'm like, I feel like I'm being psychoanalyzed. Well, I am.
you are to an extent. But it's because I've seen you in both worlds. It's really interesting for me. So, like, Debbie would love the idea of going up on stage and presenting in a seminar, but she will swat to the point that she knows every single word of that script inside out before she gets up on that stage. And this is her yellow blue energy kicking off each other.
Yeah.
And it's
Fail
just
to prepare to fail.
Yeah.
it's fascinating
I'm
to
a
watch.
proper swat, I am.
But she literally is word for word. She could tell you every single word that is on a script, and she will deliver it.
I can tell you what page it's on. I
Perfectly.
have a visual memory.
Ah, you've got a good
I don't. So I remember, like I
photographic
can
memory.
see it in my head.
Yeah.
I can see the words in my head.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
I could tell you what page that word is on and everything. So yeah, it's a visual memory. Again, much to Vips's nightmare. Like I remember scenarios. So it'd be like, you didn't say that to me. I didn't say that to you. I was like, I did. I was sat here and you were sat there and I was wearing this and you were wearing that and this is what was going on. And I can literally draw you a whole picture.
Do you know, I've got a feel for the guy, right? He can't win anything.
Yeah, not when logic comes into
Just no, poor guy.
So sorry.
Anyway,
go on.
let's move on. So this is quite interesting, and this is stuff that I know about you as well. So you prefer more relaxed social interaction, but do not assume that this could be an indication that you're not serious about important issues. And you tend to avoid conflict rather than engage.
Yeah, see, now I cannot decide if this is a good thing or a bad thing, avoiding conflict, because you're right, I'm more all about harmony, but sometimes I will choose, and I don't know if this is still the case, honestly, because I've changed so much and I've not come across this situation yet, so I don't know now, but I didn't like this about myself before, where sometimes when you have to go into conflict head on, I would still shy away from it. Even if it meant I'm not happy or I don't get the right outcome, I'll make do because I don't want conflict.
Okay.
And I think in conversations we've had, I think that's how you still are. When there's
think so?
situations staring you that are wrong, and you're like, no, but it's okay, it's fine. We're just going to go along with it. I think we
Yeah.
talked about a situation that's happening next week for you, and I said to you, that makes me so cross, and you're like, yeah, I know, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I have found that in you, where you'd rather just let it go
Yeah.
because you don't want the conflict.
Yeah. The only change I know has happened is I will go back to the kind of logic board and I'll see, right, okay, I'll play it out. How could I do this? If I went into this, is there a positive outcome through going through the conflict? If the answer is yes, then I'm probably a little bit more inclined now than I would have been before. Whereas before I wouldn't entertain the idea because I'm like, I can't deal with it. I just can't deal with the upset and the conflict. And because I'm so logical, people who aren't logical, people who
Yeah.
are more emotional and can't see wrong from right, I really struggle to communicate with. But this is something that I'd like to take away and work on, because although nobody runs into conflict kind of going, hey, I want to have an argument, I would hope people don't do that. Present political situation aside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Present political situation aside. I would like to think nobody really runs into conflict wanting it, but I do need to have, I do want to build on that within myself, where if I need to, I can do it, and I can do it for a positive, good outcome. I don't run
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to work on that. And actually that's something that I know that I can pull from you and I can learn from you.
And interestingly, for me, I hear you talking about conflict in that way. And I think there are times where I've seen you go into those situations kind of head on, and you handle yourself really, really well. But what I also see in you is this ability to go, what's the outcome here, like you've described?
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
That is what I do. That is absolutely it. Is it worth it? I play it out and go, what am I going to get as a result? Okay. I tend to work through what's the worst case scenario. And if I'm okay with the worst case scenario, I go by that. If it's unavoidable, I will go in, but I will really stress myself out in the run up to it. I will get anxiety. I will,
But that's not good for you. That's
No.
not how it should be.
no, and that's what I need to work
Yeah.
through so that
You've got to
actually,
be kinder to yourself.
yeah, so that actually any conflict situation doesn't play havoc with my mind and body before it even happens.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm currently working on. So anybody who's struggling with that, stick with me. We're going to get through this together. We're
Yeah.
going to work through it together in how we deal with conflict.
And you know, your profile does go on and talk about conflict a little bit more in terms of your problem solving. So I think it's worth exploring that, definitely.
Yeah, I
Um,
will do. Any last bits before we shine the spotlight on you?
oh God, just can
I know
do I
you
feel like
make
I'm avoiding
about
it?
other people. Yeah,
Definitely.
This is one thing. This is in the decision-making section, and this is one thing that I absolutely love about what we have with you, which is you're an excellent sounding board for others seeking to explore their own ideas. And that this is one of the things I absolutely love, because I could be playing around with different thoughts in my head, and actually I've done this for the whole time I've known you, and kind of gone thinking about this, and we'll just bounce off each other about where that might go and what that could look like. And I walk away from those conversations going, yeah, I know what I'm doing now. And that's one of the things that it talks about here. And I, like I say, I absolutely love about sort of the things that I can do with you and the conversations that we have. I mean, we're sat here for a start doing this, and that came from,
this started from
I'm thinking about
a
this.
seed of an idea.
Yeah.
A seed of an idea. One trip to Malaga, a hell of a lot of espresso martinis.
Yeah.
And here we are. But you say that, but you're absolutely right. I'm so interested in supporting people, helping people, just listening to their stories.
Yeah.
I could tell you so many stories like that where I'd have started a conversation with somebody in a coffee shop who was serving me coffee and helped her figure out her whole career, you know, and what she wanted to do.
Brilliant.
Sorry to the management where she handed in a notice.
Oops.
That's the
Yeah.
kind of thing I do.
But it's you through and through.
That's why we're doing this.
There you go. But yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's interesting, but actually, as you were reading, I didn't see it as, even though you kept saying my name, I did hear it objectively. So that's the blue.
That's the blue coming through.
Okay, so
Oh God, let's go.
So we've got Bina's profile here, and you're a green,
I am.
followed by a yellow.
I am now.
so just to remind us of what that is. So the green would be more of an introvert.
I'm
The
more
yellow is the
people-focused.
extrovert. So you've got not totally opposite colours, but still the introvert and the extrovert there.
You've got it the other way around to me.
So this is what was different about me. So currently I am green, yellow, red, and then blue.
yeah,
I
I mean,
was-
red and blue are almost
Almost the same.
Yeah.
I was green, blue, yellow, red.
Oh, okay.
So your
I've had a
blue and your yellow is
significant
just
change. I've had a significant change since I last did this in, oh God, when did I last do this? 2018, I think it was,
Oh, okay.
that I last did it. So over what, 4 years? Massive change.
But
in my
what are
life.
4 years?
My God, it's been a 4 years, I tell you.
Like we said, it's not time, it's what you go through that. So with green being your highest, that would mean you're more introverted.
Yep.
Green and yellow are all people focused. So, I'm the cold one. So the both of you are very people focused. I'm the
Yep.
one who goes a logic, task, but more introverted than extroverted.
Yep.
So when the two of us get together, I mean, we must drive you insane with our bounciness.
It's the bounciness I love, because if I'm sort of myself and I'm full of energy, I can bounce along with you. If I'm a little bit more tired, I'll just leave you to it. I'm just going to sit here and listen. And
That's
if I
the
find
times
the
when she
gap,
zones
I'll
out.
come in. Yeah, so when I zone out, it's like, yeah, I'm tired. I'm just
I'm
going to
just
leave you to it.
recharging.
And I listen, I'm still there and I'm still in the moment. I'm just not interacting as much because I'm like, I can't, not right now.
So we're going through every topic from A to Z and you're still on B.
Yeah, pretty much. Have a snooze and then I'll come back.
So I'm going to read a few things out.
Okay.
And Debbie, you're going to help me out here because you've known Bina a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
I think we've known each other for just under 12 months, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know her in different... I know her on a personal level, but I don't know in the work setting.
But what you know is the evolved Bina. What I'll be able to
Yes,
give you a perspective
exactly.
on is how she used to be.
Oh, good God.
So she does... Her personal style starts off exactly like yours.
Which
Bina
is
tends
really
to be
weird.
alert and often uncannily correct. It is as if she has an antenna that enables her to detect dangers long before other people do.
I mean, the two of us put together should start a self-defense class or something.
Like,
Danger.
oh my God, Will Robinson. Do you know what? I think that comes from reading people and reading situations, because you have to in the job that we do. You, like, we were at lunch last week, and we were having a conversation, and I could tell straight away that there was more going on than the words that were coming out of the person's mouth that was sat in front of me. And it's just from picking up on different things, different cues, from the body language to the words and all the rest of it that comes out. I don't even know I'm doing it. I think it's just become so natural now.
Well, you've always been a people watcher.
Yeah.
You're one of those people who would happily sit in a coffee shop and just people watch.
What have I been doing for the last 3 days?
So, funny you should say that.
Oh, God.
Because there's just something here I've read. Others often admire and envy when they see her see her relaxed approach to life. Traditions are important to Bina and are carefully remembered and observed. And there's another thing that kind of goes with that. She's warm and gracious and believes in the philosophy of live and let live.
Yeah, absolutely. Bina's always been about accommodating, but it doesn't mean that she holds her values and opinions very, very close to heart.
Bina feels a strength of conviction and has a clear vision of what is best for the common good.
Yeah, but she's very comfortable letting people do their own thing, finding their own way of getting there. And that, I suppose, is the green energy. Very nurturing, you get there in your own pace, Whereas I will get frustrated going, can you not see the logic? Why aren't you already there? Can you not see it's logical? It makes sense. And you'll be like, come on, hurry up now. Go on, get there. And Bina will be like, they'll get there in their own time. It's all right.
That is literally the conversations.
that is basically that kind of green energy. But yeah, traditions definitely, I've seen that has always been the case. Traditions and values, very, very important, because foundation is very important to you. It's a sense of where you come from is really important to understand for where you're going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I have some very strong sort of values and belief systems, and a bit similar to you, Nish, sometimes they can play out a bit quite heavily. So one of my biggest ones is around fairness and people being treated well.
Yeah.
And when I find people aren't treated well, I go nuts. I get very defensive about them.
Yes. Yeah.
And protective over them. Sometimes to my own detriment, and sometimes I might put myself into situations that are not good.
It also
because
sticks with you for a very long period of time, which I think it mentions in there as well.
She tends to be fiercely loyal to her friends, prepared to sacrifice her own wants for the needs of the other person.
Yeah.
She may have specific goals and abilities relating to personal values.
yeah,
She is warm and gracious and believes in the philosophy of live and let live.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's almost like you will take on somebody else's battle and make it your own.
Yeah.
because I don't.
Even long after they've let it go,
Yeah, I'm still fighting.
you're still fighting. Which is a wonderful thing for them,
Yeah, not so much for me.
not so much for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I learnt the hard way about that. I've definitely got better at doing that less, but there are certain things that do irk me that still will bring it out. However, I think the last 4 years have shown some experiences that have made me sit back and say, that is never reciprocated. So whilst you may go out to bat for other people, there's nothing comes back, and it's that emotional bank account for me is never fulfilled. So I think I've taken a step back from that, but there's still room for improvement.
You still do it, but you're very selective about who you do it for.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I mean, you could be sat next to a stranger at a bus stop and next minute, you're fighting their battles for them. Whereas now you're more
not that random.
selective. She's
I
a
am.
little bit random.
I am a bit random.
Yeah, whereas now you're wiser, I would say, into where to invest your time and energy.
Yeah, and I think I did it a lot as a manager and as a leader. I felt it was my duty, it was my role, my responsibility to protect my team, to look after them. And I still believe in that to an extent, but I also believe that now I need to push them to fight their battles rather than me being that middle person to do it for
You
them.
draw the line a little bit further
Yeah.
than so close to home
Yeah.
as you did before. Yeah, I agree.
So Bina is seen as gentle, caring and sensitive person who keeps many of her intensely personal ideals and values to herself. And this next line that I'm going to read, I think rings home to me when we were together. And as you know, me and Debbie are and Bina was sitting there one evening, very, very quiet. And it was just one thing I had to say. And then Bina felt she was able to speak, which is much of her true style may be hidden from others. It says at work, but I don't know in your workplace,
Yep.
as she is unlikely to express her feelings until she knows someone well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And
I think I actually remember that moment when that happened with us.
okay. I feel like we were drinking espresso martinis at the time
That could have been
a number of times.
any hour.
It
of any
doesn't
of the
matter where
days.
it was, but I do remember that
Yeah,
point
I
when
do.
we were together, where you then felt open. You felt that you were able to talk because you didn't know me as well.
Yeah, and likewise, you didn't know me, right?
Yeah.
So we were still getting to know each other at that point. And yeah, completely. I have to feel comfortable and safe with someone before I completely open up. It's not that I'm not being me when I'm around other people. It's just a slightly more guarded version of me.
Yeah. So the thing about fighting other people's battles that we talked about, I've just found that line. Empathetic and compassionate.
I should have written it.
She has a strong need to contribute to the welfare of others.
Why do you think I'm in the job that I'm in?
She constantly focuses on what is good in others.
You
And she
do
tends
actually.
to downplay others' faults, forgiving them for minor slights or hurtful behaviour.
Yeah. You will always, and this I guess is a great trait, you always look for the good in somebody and the positives. when we've had conversations, see where I'm logical and I'm like, when somebody behaves a certain way, I could go either which way. I could go into the yellow, I could go into the blue. So I might go, that wasn't right what they did, and I go wrong and right. Whereas your conversation will be to try and find the good intent and kind of say, well, maybe it's because of this, and you forgive very easily in the sense that you'll make excuses for them. Might be right, might be wrong, but you'd say, well, maybe this is why they did that, and you'll try to understand why they did that. Whereas I'm just fixated on, but it's wrong, and you're like, but this is maybe why, and that's maybe why, and I'm like, might be, but they're wrong.
Yeah, I do try and break down the behavior behind it and find the reasoning, because there is always things going on below the surface of people that we never see and we never understand. And I believe you shouldn't be quick to judge.
Yeah.
There's always try to understand where they're coming from and then
Walk
make a
in their
decision.
shoes.
Yeah.
Walk in their shoes.
And that's one of the traits that, going back what my profile was and what I now am, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Where, again, I try to pull myself out. And this is where that objectivity of being blue helps, because I get to pull myself out of the situation, look at it objectively, and kind of think, why might this be the case?
Interestingly, though, in my work life, I've become really different. So it's like I have not a personality shift, but my behavior becomes slightly different in the work environment. So if someone doesn't behave in a way I expect them to in a work environment, I'm quicker to challenge, but it will be more from help me understand why that's just happened, rather than internalizing it and trying to figure it out for myself. So the behavior is just slightly different in the two.
So, and just to finish off the bit about fighting other people's battles, even though it taxes her emotionally, she can take on the troubles of those around her. Right? So I think it's there.
Yeah,
In every paragraph.
That's the strong green energy.
Yeah. Coming to decision making, Bina will usually encourage democratic or even consensus decisions, as opposed to having them imposed autocratically.
Yeah, definitely.
She can be overly lenient with non-producers. Do you feel that's right?
No, not completely. I think I'd have the conversation in terms of opportunity to make it better. I describe myself as a balloon. I'll give you grace and I'll give you space and I'll give you the opportunity to do things. But at some point, that balloon will burst and be like, no, done. I'm off. We're not playing this game anymore. And that's the difference.
Bina seeks to unite all parties in a controversy and can readily see the validity of alternative points of view. She prefers tasks or projects which allow flexibility of scheduling.
Yes, definitely. I love hearing different perspectives. I love getting into debates with people where we take opposing views, because I love to learn a different perspective. I think there's just so much value in trying to understand things from a different perspective.
Tell me what you think of this one. Bina creates a pleasant, flexible and accepting environment and will regard an emergency situation as an opportunity to display her helping gifts.
Oh, I'm in a crisis. I'm right there. I'm all over it. I have many a crisis resolved in my time, from, jelly not setting and having to make a trifle out of non-setting jelly. Bring it.
Oh my God, you are. She has like a box that will have a solution in it for everything. Yeah, I remember calling you once when I didn't have sweets in my piñata. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And you had to pick up sweets for my piñata.
Like, yeah.
As you do.
Well, we did that very well on the day that we first met, if you remember.
We did, yes.
That's how we met, didn't we?
Through yes.
stuffing a piñata.
First birthday party when there was no food.
Oh my God, a crisis situation. Bring it on. Yeah.
You should have seen us in Sainsbury's. That's what brought us together.
It was.
Because you're like that as well, actually. Like,
Yeah, and then she was in the
come
back
to
of the
think
car.
Of it, so am I.
Well, you weren't that day.
You are good.
No, because I was in the crisis.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm usually that person as well to kind of run to the
this.
rescue and to That
See,
completely
it
makes
works
sense.
when you're not the person that is on the receiving end of the crisis. So if the crisis has happened to you, you're emotional about it. And the other people are then
That's right.
providing
And
the
I think she
support.
was very emotional that day.
Yeah,
And
and,
we were
that's where
going,
you and I were like, right, let's
Yeah,
go. We're going to
we're
get
going to
this
sort
fixed.
this. And it worked out really well.
Actually worked out quite
Party in the
well.
park, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was brilliant.
But yeah, I do thrive in a crisis situation.
So, she prefers to make decisions based on gut feel rather than on exhaustive and repetitive analysis.
What's wrong with you?
I don't
Why
even
would you want a
know.
good analysis?
Yeah, completely opposite to her.
I trust my intuition. I trust my gut a lot. If something feels off, 9 times out of 10, I'm right.
See, I use both.
I do like a bit of logic, but then I kind of go,
Yeah.
no. If it doesn't feel right, I won't do it. And I can't make myself do something that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
I've always been like that.
So that should give people a good understanding, an idea of where they might sit. Mm-hmm. You know, are they more yellow, kind of extrovert, that cheerleader, that all about people, lots of energy? Are they more green, leading energy, so actually more introverted, still very people focused, caring, nurturing, pulling people together? Are they kind of more blue in their leading energy, in that actually I am more introverted rather than people? I go more with logic and task, and I love reports and data, and give me all the facts and figures, that's what I need. Or are they more kind of like red leading energy, where more extrovert, still task focused, but more extrovert with it, more these are the points, and you'll know it in the language as well. You know, like, do you use words like more thinking, I think this, I think that, or do you use feeling, I feel this, I feel that, because that gives it away as well.
Yep.
You know, how do you express yourself? Are you very like this when you talk? Red and yellow, extroverted to the point, or are you very much like this, elaborating and thinking and, you know, logic kind of thing? So it should give people an idea and an insight into where they sit as a personality and who they've got in their family. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, that's why I clash with that person, or maybe that's why I don't get along with my brother, because actually my brother is, to me, he comes across as just kind of like he doesn't care about me, and he's always like wanting to, you know, asking me for facts with when we have an argument, and saying, yeah, but you did this and you did that, and I'm more about the, but why don't you care about me? And I'm sitting here crying and you won't just hug me, you know, why? So this might explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to move on to doing, ladies, is just talking about communication styles, because that's what we really need to get to, the opposite type of person and how to communicate with them. Excuse me for my nasaliness, I am losing my ends. So I'm
Page
going
10,
to look
isn't
at...
14.
14. Oh.
So let's go to communication. So effective communication. So first we can go with
this
talking
one.
about...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so first if we
Opposite
focus...
types.
Well, first I was going to say let's focus on communicating with this type of personality.
Ah,
So-
yeah.
So if I go
Okay,
first,
10.
so Nish, just to remind everybody, so this is a personality type who is a leading yellow and then followed closely by green. So extrovert with a bit of introversy, very people focused rather than task focused. That's the kind of person we're talking about. So these are the strategies for communicating effectively with Nish and people who are more yellow and then green. So giving praise and thanks for a job well done, which I think we should be doing for everybody anyway.
Yeah.
But then I would say that because I'm yellow too. Yeah, giving praise and thanks for a job well done. So if you know you've got a personality in your family or whatever setting you're thinking about where that person, you're like, yeah, they're definitely that yellow, kind of sunshine yellow, high energy, that kind of person. Or maybe they're more green and they're slightly more introverted, but they are people focused, then make sure you're giving them praise. So give them praise and thanks where they're doing a good job or where they've helped. Be prepared to negotiate solutions slowly, calmly and quietly. So do not go with a bull in a china shop saying, we're doing this. No, you've got to negotiate. You've got to hear that person out. Be prepared to spend time calmly and quietly coming to a solution with them. So with you. keeping up a lively but steady pace. So don't dawdle.
Nope.
Get
You'll
on
be left
with it.
behind.
Like, have you seen the speed this woman walks with? Like, honestly.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm like, I've got shorter legs than you, you know. Listen for the essence of what's being said. I love this. So listen. So your opposite type would be somebody who is quite high blue, right? So quite high blue,
think that
very
might be my
logical, introverted, who might be thinking, why is she talking so much? Like, what's the point? Listen to the essence of what's being said, because you might be expressing yourself and articulating yourself. So it's to give you that time and really listen to what you're trying to tell them. Share in and promote her ideas and visions. So basically valuing your contribution. Offer praise and appreciation when due. Be prepared to discuss a wide range of topics. Okay, so not to bore you, like, because somebody who is actually quite heavy blue would be able to spend hours like analysing and talking about one thing. Whereas, you know, you're going to need a variety of topics, otherwise you're
Where
going to
the
be
sun
like...
has to shine, yes. And why the sun has to shine there.
Whereas, you know, like a minute later, you're already 5 topics on.
Yeah, that's me.
Allow her time to talk it over with those who may be affected, because you are about pulling everybody together. So actually, you're going to need the time to discuss things and make sure all the parties involved have a say.
Yeah.
Right? Until then, we're not reaching a decision. Appeal to her need to be of service. So actually, rather than thinking, oh, well, I'll be putting that person out, they want to help, they want to be involved. So
Yeah.
allow them to be involved, bring them into the mix. Take a low-key, friendly approach. So with people who are people-focused, possibly yellow or green, don't be overly formal. You know, don't kind of like make it a big, okay, we need to sit down and have a meeting. You know, just keep it
Just say it as it
informal.
is and come to me and let's have a cup of coffee or gin and tonic
Yeah.
or a Prosecco.
Exactly. You know, depending on if it is 9 in the morning or 11 in the morning.
Hey, either goes, right?
Avoid detailed reports.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, if you ever want to put Nish to sleep, give her a report.
Do not ask her to do a feasibility report on what time the sun shines.
Shines on her herbs, exactly.
Just get the damn toolbox. Focus on people issues rather than tasks. Discuss people. And finally, maintain a consistent personal relationship with her. So in other words, don't be a stranger for 5 months and then just get in touch suddenly with Nish, because she'll be like, oh, where have you been?
Yeah, what do you want?
What do you want? She'll still be of service.
Stay in contact. Yes, I'll still be of service.
But you know what? Actually, that's a really good point, because I can see this in you. You're very much about maintaining relationships. You're very good at that. So I guess you obviously expect the same back. So for people to keep up with even if it's just a little message to say, hey, how are you doing? You know, but just to kind of maintain that.
Yeah. I think that is, I don't get it when my classic is Facebook. But if you're going to be on friends on Facebook with me, then it's going to be a friendship on Facebook that I actually do know you and I see you.
Okay.
It's not one of these because you want to stalk me, which people want to do.
Right.
Or I'm never going to see you. I don't get that. And I do cull. I'm sorry, I cull on Facebook. Just to let you know.
So that's the red coming through right there.
Yeah, I do have
wanna
those
be on Nish's
moments.
cull list.
I know.
Sounds
I feel like there's a
scary
culling
place.
coming.
Right, can you just quickly go
Yeah.
and like a post for her, please?
Yes, we'll do that
And
later.
tag me into it.
Lunchtime, okay? Apparently, we need to go check Instagram because she's
Okay,
tagged us.
here's some clear do nots, okay, guys?
Okay.
So if you're dealing with somebody who is a little bit like Nish, so somebody who is of that energy, these are some of the things that you don't want to do. Do not take advantage of a good nature, and I can absolutely vouch for this because, no, genuinely, people who are helping like yourself, like me, like Vina, it's very easy to take advantage of somebody's nature. So, you know, don't do that. Just make sure that, and you don't ask for much. You're just asking for a bit of, just appreciate my help.
Yeah, just
Not
like
much more.
my post on Facebook.
Like my bloody post.
Right, clearly something we need to do when we break, right?
You need to get onto Facebook. Okay, sorry, I'm pulling out some key bits. Don't criticize, condemn, or suppress her enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
Right?
Don't
Let
do that
her
to me.
shine. Do not restrict her shine. Do not ignore, forget, or demean her. Do you know, this is one definitely, because, and again, in the respect of kind of being vulnerable and everything, like, although you are easygoing, self-respect matters to everybody.
Of course it does.
So demeaning you, or I don't think, because I think you and I are very similar in this respect, in that you're more forgiving. You shouldn't be this forgiving, but you're more forgiving of this. But I think if we are, I can't find a better word, so I'm going to say mocked. But if we're mocked in public, we don't forget that easily.
No.
We will
Absolutely
hold
don't.
that. You know, you will too, but you forgive far easily than we do. We will kind of hold it in our mind. We don't like being made to look silly in front of people.
Yeah.
Basically, so that stuck out for me when I was kind of reading this, going, yeah, I'm like that too, and so you shouldn't anyway. You shouldn't be. But yeah. And finally, do not leave her out of the picture. Involve Nish in the process, involve them, because you know, people who are more that yellow energy want to be acknowledged, want to be part and parcel of that team. Should I talk about the opposite and how to communicate with the opposite style now, or should we come on to that later?
Let's come back to that.
Okay.
Let's see if people relate to us and then in terms
Yeah.
of communication. I'm going to do you, Debbie. Now, there were some
By all means.
similarities about you and Nish's way of communication. So we have offer praise and appreciation where due. So that's the yellow energy.
Yeah.
There is the lively, steady pace and the low-key, friendly approach. So all of those were from the yellow
Yeah.
energy. The blue energy show exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right? She needs the detail.
But you know what's interesting? Not too much detail, and this is something I discovered. So Vips had said to me, because it said again, I'd probably lose interest if I had, let's say I was doing one project and it was going on for a long period of time, I'd lose interest.
Right.
I need a variety of things. So he said to me, but you love the detail. I went, think of it as Phoebe in Friends when Monica puts her on ice duty. Right?
Okay.
I don't want to just be on ice duty. I would rather have the entire party to look after. That's what I thrive in, not just ice. Otherwise, I'd do what she did and I'd come up with every single different type of ice there is.
And I've literally seen that play out. But interestingly, it says agree what needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is about giving you the freedom about how you want to do it. It's just agreeing what tasks needs to happen.
Yeah,
and
tell me
such.
what needs to be done. And that's what the conversation will be. It will be, right, tell me what the result needs to be.
Yeah.
Give me the constraints, what needs to be done. And then I can kind of go off, because I basically hold myself to a very high standard. So if then later the conversation transpires into this isn't what was supposed to be done, my line will be, this is what we discussed. That, because that's how my head works. I'm logic. But that's what you said. You asked for this, so this is what you get. You know.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And it is, and that is pure blue energy
Blue.
coming through, right? It's that detail driven.
Just makes sense.
I love how you're still trying to justify it. Show concern for her opinions and be willing to discuss personal matters. That for me is a mix of a little bit of that yellow energy coming through and just showing that care and concern for you. Appeal to her need to be of service. Again, just similar one
Yep.
to you, Nish. The essence came up again, so listen for the essence of what's being said. And that for me is really true for you. When you're talking, you're so articulate in the way that you speak, and you've mentioned considered, we have to pull out what you're really trying to get to and what's sitting beneath that as well.
Vips will see it as waffle, because he is quite
Direct.
the opposite. He's red, like his leading energy is red. So when I'm trying to talk about, could you imagine a conflict between us? I'm trying to articulate how I feel, and he's a bit like, can I talk yet? And I'm like, you're not listening to what I'm saying. So he's waiting me to get to the point, and I'm thinking, he doesn't care about how I feel. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Maintain a consistent personal relationship with her. which consistency I think is key here, because that's your blue and your yellow energy coming through. Mirror her normally calm and even-tempered nature.
Normally.
Yeah, normally is the word I focus on here, because you're calm when it comes to getting things done and knowing what you need to do and your logical side. Your yellow energy is not calm. It's like, it's a bit crazy like me, and we go a bit nutty together. But when we're talking about communication, this is definitely where you're at. Avoid unnecessary distractions and keep to the point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I just say, she can't keep to the point.
I do. I
When-
come back to it.
You come to it eventually, right?
I don't forget my bookmark. I might go off on a tangent, but I come back to the point.
Our conversations, okay, if I have a conversation with Debbie, we dart like this in our conversations.
Yeah, that
It's hysterical.
and that actually is that is something that Vic says all the time, because he'll be like, but you were talking about this a minute ago. How have you? I went, oh, but after that, then I went to this, then I went to this, then I went to this, then I went to this. I can come back there, but this is how I got here. So there's a logical thread to it.
It's like playing the
You
tenuous
just
link
have to
game.
keep up.
This
is me with a fuzzy head
Those
as
are
well.
kind of the do's. The don'ts, again, really similar. Don't make critical comparisons in relation to other people. That one for me is a really strong one. Don't compare your capabilities to someone else's capabilities.
Yeah.
You are an individual and to be treated as well.
But that comes from my own kind of beliefs. I don't do that with others.
Yeah.
I hate that comparing people, because absolutely right, people are individuals.
Yeah.
And they have something to offer individually. You shouldn't be comparing.
Restrict or restrain her natural exuberance.
Oh,
Yeah. So don't shut you down, don't close you off and stop that
Yeah,
shine,
I think
which I
that's-
think's fair.
allow me to ooze.
Radiate.
Radiate, come on now. But this one I love. It just makes me giggle. Do not dream with her unless you can spare the time.
Oh.
Look, unless you can spare the time. So if you've got another 4 or 5 hours, go for it.
It's fun. It's fun if you want to come to this side, but we have to plan it in. You schedule
Yeah.
time for dreaming.
Which links to inhibit or restrict networking opportunities, because that's where you thrive. So don't do that. Don't dampen her enthusiastic energy with negative inputs, which makes sense. I'm going to pick out a couple, the last one here, which actually ties into what you said. Don't expose her to potentially embarrassing situations.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were the do nots for someone similar to Debbie.
Again, laminate and stick on the fridge is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, why not?
Now on to you, Bina,
Okay.
for a very high green,
Yeah.
followed by a yellow.
Yes.
Strategies of communicating with Bina. Share in and promote her ideas and visions.
Yeah, get involved in conversation with me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've got the same one as us. Maintain a consistent personal relationship with her.
That is that people-focused part,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Provide lots of opportunities for team contact. I think that within your job, I think that is very much something that is needed, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. So, but for me, it's more, whilst I'm green energy, more introverted, I like connecting with people. So the more opportunity to do that, the more I enjoy
Yeah.
and get from it.
You have the same. Again, avoid detailed reports. Focus on people issues.
Yeah, so interestingly, whilst I used to be, my second colour used to be blue, and I used to like the detail, I was never really into being over prepared or prepared in such a sense that I would read stuff and read reports. I skim, and I've always skimmed, but I have a need to, I'm a recovering perfectionist in some aspects of my life.
I like that. Recovering.
I'm recovering, and I'm still trying to recover from it.
name's Bina.
Where, you know, I have to do things at 150%, but my life now doesn't allow me to do that. So I have to let go of stuff, and I don't have time to read stuff.
And I think this is a very important one. Deal with her in an honest and sincere way.
Yeah, the word there for me is honest.
Honest. Yeah, that's what came out to me as well about you.
This is one of my values, like truth and honesty. And trust is a big deal for me. So if you break my trust, you're out my circle. It's literally that simple.
Oh God, we're back to the culling.
How are you about change? Expect some resistance if you are suggesting change.
This interested me.
So I like to be involved in change.
Okay.
I don't
don't
like
do it behind your back.
Yeah, I don't like it put on me. But I
So you like to be a part of it
Part
rather
of the
than
change.
Yeah.
it
Rather than being
forced on
told.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, but my life is about change. There is nothing routine about my life. So for me, there's a bit of conflict there about how change sits with me. Do I like it? My profile suggests I like to be quite routine and doing things over and over again. I get bored of routine.
I disagreed with that point. I found it quite interesting. I think that is appealing to the more green energy, but I think in this situation, I would say your yellow prevails because you
Yeah.
actually like exciting new opportunities.
I'm hugely spontaneous. Like if someone rings me up and says, "What are you doing? Let's go here now." I'll be like, "Yeah, come, let's go." Like literally, I'll be at your front door going, "Right, what are we doing?"
Yeah,
You can
I-
vouch
I
for that
like-
one.
I'll be like, can you email me a schedule, please?
I do it for her, but that's all. But yeah,
Provide an environment which allows her to express her thoughts.
yeah, I need to sometimes get stuff off my chest and say what
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine once I've said it.
So if you've got somebody who has more of that green energy, somebody who is, what you got to remember is they're still very people focused, still very kind of nurturing, but they're slightly more on the introverts. They need a bit more time. You need a bit more time,
Yeah.
not being rushed. You know, people have got to give you that space and time for your thought process to catch up and for you to explore different options because you're not going to be as vocal about it as Nish and I would be. You know,
Yeah.
we'd talk about
Yeah.
our thoughts very quickly, whereas you're still going to be internalizing and thinking about it and then you vocalize
Yeah,
it.
and by which point you two are gone a whole other place.
Well, we've already decided we're there.
Yeah, you're already, yeah.
Be
But
there.
What's really interesting, and the one thing to remember about all the 4 different styles here is there is an underlying emotion that sits within all of them. And for people with green energy, the underlying emotion is emotion. Okay, and it sounds really, really weird. The higher up the scale they are in terms of their green energy, the less emotion they show.
That's really interesting. So the higher up they are in the green energy, they move towards blue.
No, the less emotion they show because they're more internalizing it. Think about
Oh, I
that balloon,
see.
right? So
The
all of the
more
emotion,
introverted.
yeah, the more emotion they just swallow and put into that balloon, keeps going. And then all of a sudden, one day, something
When it
trivial will
pops.
happen, that balloon will pop, they will
Krakatoa.
go nutty on someone, and that poor person on the receiving end's like, I have no clue what I've done to be on the receiving end of all of this emotion, but it's everything. Like, you know, your 6 months worth of emotion stored up in that balloon just comes out in one go. So if you've got someone that you sense as being quite green energy and they don't communicate their emotion, work with them, get that emotion out because that balloon will burst.
Or move out the way.
Yeah, like run.
So, what you don't do with Bina when you're communicating with her?
Pop the balloon.
Oh man, you ain't seen my
Put her on the spot in front of others.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some instances.
Patronise or be paternalistic.
To treat you like a child.
Yeah, that would really
Paternalistic.
piss me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question or challenge her personal values. Criticise without first acknowledging positive contributions.
Yeah, that does. The heckles go up slightly.
And don't fail to meet informally to discuss progress.
Yeah, I don't do formal.
Yeah. Exert unnecessary pressure.
The
Do
key
not
word's unnecessary.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because you actually thrive under some types of pressure.
Yeah. But if you put pressure on me when it's not needed, I'll just think you're an idiot. and it will annoy me more than make me more productive.
Do not be overbearing or harness her to unrealistic deadlines.
Yeah.
Is that unnecessary pressure?
I think those two come together. They're one
Yeah.
after the other, so they come together, don't they?
But if you give me a deadline that's really short, part of me will go into panic mode. So, and I've seen myself do this a few times. So I will go freak out on my own, do my thing, and then I have to work through it systematically to get to a point where I feel comfortable I can meet that deadline. But I will, if I'm put under that kind of pressure, I will go to panic mode initially, for sure. But that's me.
So actually quite helpful in looking at the way to communicate with these different
I think it's very
styles.
helpful, this.
So because we don't have a leading blue energy here, we don't have a leading red,
Yeah.
how to deal with your opposite type will bring that out. Because Nish, I've got yours here, and your opposite type would basically be so somebody who is actually leading blue energy. So somebody who is more introverted because you're extroverted, and more task focused and thinking than people focused.
Yeah. And it's the same for you. So that's
Yeah.
your exact opposite as well.
So if I go through this and then you see if there's anything I haven't mentioned. So
yeah, absolutely.
what we're looking at is if
Yeah.
you are the person who is more leading with blue, logical, cool blue energy, where you are more introverted and you're more logical, or you're dealing with somebody like that, then this is what we need to think about. So recognize, first of all, that their remoteness is not about you, it's not personal. So somebody who leads with that blue energy, it's not that they're trying to be impersonal to you or they're trying to be rude, but they prefer that remoteness, they prefer their own space. It's not personal. You'd want to provide facts and figures. Obviously, if this is a work situation, if not, logical. So you want to appeal to that person's logic. So let's say you were in a conflict. Let's say I have a brother who has that leading blue energy and I'm yellow, I'm Nish, or I'm me. And so if we're having a bit of a conflict about something, then actually I need to be a bit more logical with how I approach things with him. And I need to talk about that rather than talk about feelings. I need to talk about, well, look, these are the reasons why I wanted to do this, and approach it with more logic than feelings, because that's how they process the information.
Yeah.
And not feel bad if I don't get a hug because I'm crying. Maybe ask for one, because it would appeal, they wouldn't think about it themselves. Gently remind them of the human dimension. Hello,
Yeah.
I'm a person here. How about a hug? Respect their values and principles, which I think goes both ways for anybody.
Yeah.
And ensuring that your statements are accurate, because when you're dealing with somebody like that, like in some cases myself, when I'm being quite blue energy, it is about the fact. So
Yeah.
it will be about, so for example, I might say to my brother, but you made me feel this way, because I'm about feelings, I'm yellow. But he might say, but that's not what I said. Fact. But this is how you made me feel, but that's not what I said. But this is how you made me feel, but that's not what I said. And on you go. So it's about remembering that person deals with it in fact. So saying, I know you didn't say this, but what you did say, I heard it this way, it made me feel this way. So it's the language that you use, basically.
Yeah.
So what you don't want to do with somebody who is more logical, more that blue kind of energy, is you don't want to exert unnecessary pressure. You don't want to be vague about facts and statistics. This is an interesting one. Don't forget to allow time for reflection, because they're still an internal kind of person.
Yes.
So
They need to go away and process it.
they need reflection time. So as we speak, I'm sure he's drawing up a sun chart, figuring where to hammer those nails into the wall.
Absolutely.
As we speak,
He said he'd get the wood and
There's
build
a
it
plan
for me, and I was
everything
like, no,
going
it's
on.
okay.
Yeah, you're going to feel really guilty when you go out back and see it's been done now. Do not jump to the next subject until they are ready, because again, like greens, the blue people who think more with blue need a bit of time to process. And again, not to kind of like be unrealistic or again jump to too many different topics, kind of stay with that one
Focused.
topic focused.
Yeah.
Would be it. So if we're sat down to resolve this conflict, let's just keep it about this and not bring up another 3 years worth of issues.
Yeah.
You know, and probably I would say, and this is appealing to the blue in me, maybe just give them a bit of warning and say, I'd really like to kind of sit down and have a talk about this with the intent of resolving it, and this result is what we want.
And interesting, that's some of the stuff that was extra on here that you haven't mentioned. So giving advance notice to allow them time to prepare.
Yeah.
Another interesting one on here that I liked was say what you mean and mean what you say. So
Oh,
thinking
yes.
about that blue energy who is very black and white.
If you're not saying it, how do I know what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're,
yeah, but you didn't say that. You're not telling.
Yeah.
But it's
Although we're
your
trying to say it,
actions.
or yeah,
Yeah, your action should reflect what you're saying you're going to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which actually is a lot of the time when Vips and I are talking through a conflict. Yeah, that's right. We have disagreements. Married 10 years, like. When we do have those clashes, actually, it's the wording it comes down to. So I will say,
Yeah.
but this is what you said. But it'll say, but that's not what I meant. But this is what you said. So I
Yeah,
need him to
logic's kicking
acknowledge
through.
and actually acknowledge it and say, okay, I know I said that, but it's not what I meant, kind of thing. So
Okay.
that's what we're talking about with that blue, aren't we? We're talking about stick to the logic and the facts.
Yeah, and in terms of do not, it talks about don't hint obliquely. So if you've got something to say it. Don't kind of go round the houses.
Yeah,
It's that whole grey
Say
thing
it.
again.
yeah,
Yeah.
Don't be too informal or waste time on social trivia. That's not a big blue, specifically blue trait. So
So I guess if you're sat down for a conflict resolution or just generally with somebody who is more that energy, then you don't have to do the niceties because they're not expecting it. They might
Yeah,
actually
they just
sit
wanna
there
get to it.
thinking, why are you talking about that? It's got
Yeah, why am
nothing
I
to
here?
do with what we're sat here to discuss.
it's
Yeah.
exactly that. It's exactly that. Don't be vague about facts and statistics. So if you are talking to someone with blue energy, they're going to be all over those
oh
numbers.
yes,
Right.
numbers and data.
Because
and-
if you say, well, you know, I don't know, there's a chance it might rain. Okay, well, how much of a chance? I don't know, about like 40-50%. Well, which one, 40 or 50?
Yeah. Do I need an umbrella? Do I need a
Which
coat?
one?
Yeah.
Like, pick a number.
Yeah, that plays out. And this one, don't procrastinate or interrupt.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, you can see
Yeah.
it kicking off over there.
Yeah, I definitely am a mixture.
Yeah. So someone that's got that kind of blue energy, just feeding off your one. Those are the extra bits I would add to it.
Yeah, the one about procrastinating or interrupting. Yeah, because that person thinks logically, they are trying to explain to you something in a logical way. So if you're interrupting them, it kind of breaks the flow.
Breaks the flow. Yeah.
That's right. They
Okay,
can't.
good. So that
that's-
is how we want to communicate with somebody who has more of that blue, so slightly introverted, but very much about the task, very logical
Yeah.
in their thinking as a key driver. Then we want to communicate with somebody who has
Who's
that
red.
leading red energy.
Right. Acknowledge your understanding of her ideals and values, although they may be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to acknowledge where they're coming from and what.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can see that.
Take responsibility for your own actions and errors.
Oh, yeah. They're all
Yeah.
about
Sure.
responsibility and that sort of dominant trait. So, yeah.
Bring proof and evidence of performance.
Yep, they are results driven.
I have to do that on a weekly basis.
Keep personal comments to yourself.
I don't think so.
That's what it says here.
Yeah, we're trying to communicate with them.
That would be the muttering under the breath.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that annoys
That's the
them.
one.
Yes.
That's the one, Debbie. You got it.
That's why I do it.
You're so cool.
Be receptive and open-minded
Yeah.
and respect her values and principles.
Let's say his.
His. Okay.
Oh, Vips.
So now what you do not do with a fiery red.
Right,
Debbie.
okay, this is what I need to go home and do.
Not.
I feel like you're giving
Do
her
not
ammunition.
underestimate his ability to decide for himself.
I never do. I'm constantly saying, what do you want for dinner? Don't make me decide.
Criticize his ideas or take issues with them.
I know, but we can't have jacket potato every day.
Okay, this is where the blue comes in, because the blue kicks off and is a bit like...
Well, there's a to-do
yeah, no.
list and there's a menu up on the wall, the weekly menu.
Yeah, you see
I've
that?
seen that.
Look, right, I have to criticise when I get silly suggestions because we have a veto rule. You have to come up with what we want for dinner. So he throws anything that I know I'm going to say no to, right? He knows I'm going to say no. So then I have to come up with a logical solution, right? I will criticise that because jacket potato, right, is not a viable meal.
Do we need to consider some therapy sessions?
This
Yeah.
is what this is.
Procrastinate, prevaricate, or interrupt him.
Oh, so neither of you like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but that's
But you do it to
usually-
each other.
Yes. I think we need something like, okay, I'm holding the hairbrush, so I will talk. When I'm done, you can hold the hairbrush.
This is the talking
Have a
hairbrush.
mic. What we
Right,
do.
okay.
This is an interesting one. Do not tell him what to do or how to do it.
Yeah. They are very clear thinking, really focused, know what they're doing, how they're going to do it.
Yeah,
It's like teaching someone to suck eggs. They won't buy into it.
to be fair, I don't like telling people what to do naturally. But there is a right way of doing things.
Oh, you had to get that in.
Besides, I don't. I just write it on a post-it note.
You found other means of doing
Yeah.
it. You don't
I don't
verbally say it.
No.
Do not show less than full commitment to his project.
Yes.
And do not keep him in the dark or he will do likewise.
It can be very tit for tat. I'll just say, with that red energy, and I'm not just talking about this, but I'm talking about wherever I've observed it, it can become very, on a day where you're not getting along, it can become very childlike tit for tat.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you look at, if you ever go and do something like this in full detail, you'll learn what behaviours will come through when these people are on a bad day.
Yeah.
And you will get argumentative nature. You'll get someone that just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, going for their agenda, going for what they think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And losing that open-mindedness. And yeah, it can come across in that way, especially if you're the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So like, for example, for me, talking to a fiery red person, I find they're really direct and to the point that it almost, I have to really process it and really think, oh God, they're not talking about me. It's not
It's
offensive.
not personal.
Yeah,
but it
it's
can come across
Them, it's their
aggressive.
personality.
Yeah.
So the point is to pull the good traits because there's a lot to offer from every type, and that's why we have a little bit of everything in us.
Yeah.
Because actually, from somebody like that, like what I love, about that trait, and what I love about Vips is kind of the focus. Like when they're on something, the focus, the energy. The boldness. I mean, I could learn a thing or two from kind of like conflict management. I mean, sometimes I have to pull him back, saying we don't need to go in head first into that conflict. But there's something it is opposites attract. Like, although we're not complete opposites, some aspects of us are. There is things that I admire and want to learn from him, and there is things that he said that he has learned from me. So that is the point here.
Yeah.
It's how do you draw out the positives?
But here's what's really interesting, and I just think I'm a weird dynamic. There are moments where like someone's talking to me and my natural green energy would like the fluffy kind of approaching kind of questions, and there are parts of me that are like, what is it you're trying to ask? Just say what you want to say and just say it as it is,
Yeah.
because I can adapt myself really quickly to different situations, and depending on what's going on at that time and what the conversation's about, I can get into that fiery red energy and be like, talk to me like this.
I suppose it depends on how passionate you are about that topic, what's going on in your day, what's going on in your life around that time, because the point is you do duck and dive. And,
Yeah, you
and
absolutely move
switch.
around.
And that is the whole purpose of this, is to have the awareness of what your
Yes.
preferred place is to go,
Yep.
and how do you draw the other bits in? How
Yeah.
do you get a little bit of everything
Yeah.
to work for you?
Yeah.
So that's a really like interesting read. But essentially, I hope what we've done here is, other than understand ourselves a little bit better, what I really wanted to do is give people a chance to reflect on themselves. You don't have to do a psychometric test. We did. We had the means, thanks to Bina.
Yes.
And if you can do it, it's fantastic.
I think it's a really good thing to do.
Well,
I
imagine
really do.
in a family setting, if you did, and like I said,
can
because
really
you're
understand
answering
each other.
you're answering the
Yeah.
questions, and that's what results in it, which means it's easier to digest than somebody telling you you're being a certain way.
And I think it helps if you've got children, as your children grow older and become adults. And, you know, essentially I'm living in a household of 4 adults who could be 4 colleagues at work.
Yeah.
Or we could be 4 colleagues at work, you know, if you put it in that setting. When they're younger, I mean, you can see a personality developing. And as they grow older, so I think this is a great thing to do.
The one thing to bear in mind when you're doing this in a work environment versus in your personal life is in your work environment, there is less emotion involved. When you do this with a
Yes.
family,
Yeah, true.
it becomes so much more emotional. So you've got to go into it with that
Yeah.
mindset of people are going to get emotional, things are going to keep coming back at
But
you.
I think it's also, you're going to get so much more from it because
Oh,
it's
God,
so
yeah.
much more of an honest place,
Yeah.
and you've
Yeah.
got more invested than you would have at work.
Absolutely. And it will change the relationships in a positive way if you can manage those things.
Yeah, definitely. And The Blind Spots, I think, is really an interesting read because, again, it's there for you to have a look at, have a think about, and this is about self-reflection. It's about self-development.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you can be more aware of yourself, then you can be more aware of how you can impact other people and what's going on with your dynamics. And we're saying family, it could be friendships, it could be relationships.
Yeah.
Anything. It can be related to anything, actually.
Yeah.
Now we
Absolutely.
know what we are, what our
Yeah.
opposites are, how to deal
What
with
our
them, how not to
traits
do.
are, how we might behave when we're not
Yeah.
having a great day,
Yeah.
you know, how that plays out. So if we're aware of that and we can notice those triggers, we can affect it. Imagine that. Imagine if I actually think about relationships that I've been in and the part I had to play in the breakdown of it, maybe. And, you know, do I want to break that cycle? This
Yeah.
is the way to do it. So if I guess insights is something they want to do, then Bina, they can get in touch with you through your
Absolutely.
website.
They can get in touch with me through the website, equiluxpd.com. Give me a shout and more than happy to support. I think it's also worth saying we've barely scratched the surface with this document.
Yeah.
We've looked at, what,
Yes.
5 pages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like 20 odd pages.
I've literally just read it and it's come to this much discussion.
Yeah.
Imagine like that.
Can
I
you
know
imagine
we're
how much more you can get from it?
We are. We're definitely going to dig a lot deeper, aren't we? Like I am going to get Lips to do it. I definitely want him to do it. He did one back years and years ago.
Hey,
so it'd
shout.
be
If he wants to
interesting
get one, we'll get one
see.
done for him.
Definitely. And it's worth mentioning that actually when you do this, you actually do get somebody
Yes.
who is qualified, who actually talks
Yep.
you through understanding it because it's,
So we can't just provide the profiles. We have to provide a debrief
Yeah.
with the profile.
Which I think would be great for people.
Yeah,
because it can be
absolutely.
taken out of context and misunderstood. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, part of the accreditation and the licensing behind it.
Yeah.
Requires us to do it.
Brilliant.
God, how interesting.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for
do you know
doing
what?
this for us.
Oh,
Bina.
yeah.
Thank
most
you,
welcome.
Bina.
Thank
I
you.
definitely am going to spend more time having a look at it. I've already picked out some bits that I know I want to work on. Some bits that actually I feel quite proud of and that I'm going to kind of like go, right, that's really good that I've got that, especially the bit about being uncannily right. I'm going to put that on the fridge. But no, genuinely, I'm going to look at some of those traits and some of those triggers
Yep.
and think, right, how can I stop myself doing those and kind of evolve further? So definitely given me a lot of food for thought.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure going forward, we'll probably refer back to this a lot of times, but when we start talking about relationships,
Yes.
and
That'll be interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to have those herbs up. It's in the wrong place. With my blue.
I think we're going to have to bring the herbs onto the sofa.
Yeah, I think we are going to have to follow the story of the herbs as we go through.
For now, for the sake of people watching and listening, let's bring this to a wrap. Ladies, from myself, thank you so much. Not only for thanks, Bina, for actually giving us the opportunity to have the Insights profile, which is, we're very incredibly lucky.
We are.
But also thank you for your honesty today on the sofa in allowing us to hand your profile over to somebody else, saying, there you go, pull it
Yep.
apart.
Yep.
It's very
Been
brave.
really, really good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it shows the trust that we've got kind of between ourselves as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
So thank you
thank
so
you.
much. It's been fun. And you've been on the sofa with Nish, Bina and Debbie on Confidence Talks.